What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. Okay, almost died, that's all. So yeah, long story short, today we have this one of the very old houses somewhere deep inside Russia. And so it is literally falling apart. It is literally almost splitting in half. I don't know how can you achieve this condition, but well, they managed to do it. Long story short, the local authorities most likely did a claim to the federal budget asking for money to repair it because the residents of this house, I'm assuming they were complaining. And so, as always it happens, whenever they did receive money from the budget, the local authorities pocketed 90% of it and spent the rest 10 at most trying to fix the house. And they literally just patched it. They took some metal strips, put some nails inside the house, like this is the level of repairs you would see maybe in Tom and Jerry cartoons, like in Simpsons and Futurama, but not in real life. Well, once again, this is yet another confirmation how the Russian authorities treat the Russian people. So all this time whenever they say like, we are the greatest nation, we are united, people love each other, people respect each other, well, as you can see, the more power you have, the least you care about just these regular peasants. And so yeah, now let me give you a very brief update from the east and the south of Ukraine, because it looks like that Russians started evacuating at least some parts of the Z army from Crimea, and this just could be a reason, because Putin recently said that he is ready for a ceasefire, but only on one condition. All these things we're gonna talk about right now. First of all, I want to show you this satellite images comparison from Kushchevska airfield located in Krasnodar region, Russia, where there was an attack by allegedly Ukrainian drones, and even though Russians as always they did say that the air defense was able to intercept every single one of them, well, apparently at least 2 or maybe even 3 Russian fighter jets, Su-27 and Su-30s, were either severely damaged or even fully destroyed. But it is not the last thing that happened in Krasnodar region, because apparently even more Ukrainian drones were able to cross the border and reach this early warning radar system. Because this is a significant target, it is not just being able to predict or catch some drones or missiles or obviously fighter jets, helicopters, it is also able to detect the launch of ballistic intercontinental ballistic missiles from the range of more than 6,000-7,000 kilometers. This is an extremely highly technological piece of equipment of Russians, and well, as you can see, has been damaged. It is not yet fully destroyed, but it just shows that Ukrainians, if they want to, they can reach this target. Next is the video from Murom, this time from Belgorod region, where even more Ukrainian drones were able to destroy a concentration of Russian forces along with their military supplies. And then we have a video from Vovchansk, already from the territory of Ukraine along Kharkiv front line. And as you can see, Ukrainians, they recently received even more javelins, which are anti-tank systems. And well, they literally opened an entire hunting season against Russian tanks. And they do it quite successfully. And by the way, guys, as always, every single footage I'm showing in today's episode is available right now on my Patreon, full version and uncensored ones. The link to my Patreon is down below. Thank you so much for your support. Right, the next statement from the same Vovchansk came to us from the Commander-in-Chief of Ukrainian forces, Alexander Syrsky. He basically reiterated his previous statements that right now that's it. Russian offensive against the city completely stalled. They are absolutely not able to do anything at all. The presence of the Z army inside Vovchansk is minimal. But unfortunately, according to his intelligence, they are trying to bring some reserves. Let's see. Once again, personally, I do not think that they want to open an actual front line along Kharkiv. Most likely still this is just a distraction. But well, this is what they're trying to do. And since Russians were not able to achieve anything significant in Vovchansk, well, they continue their favorite tactics of targeting civilian infrastructure. For example, recently severely damaged was a railway station in Kharkiv. In response to that, Ukrainians to the south of Popivka were able to destroy a self-propelled artillery system of Russians. And then in the small village of Mospina in Donetsk region, this is one of the most beautiful videos of Ukrainians successfully destroying S-400 system of Russians. This is almost like a piece of art. This is one of my favorite videos so far. In Vuhledar, yet another combat tank of Russians was fully just split into atoms, and just overall in the last 24 hours, Ukrainians were able to destroy 7 artillery systems, 6 tanks, and 19 armored vehicles of various kinds. And lastly, the most important news of the last day is that Russians literally started evacuating very big parts of their Z army from Dzhankoi, located on the Crimean Peninsula. You already know this notorious Dzhankoi airfield, which at this point is absolutely one of the easiest targets for Ukrainians. They can literally attack it whenever they want. The main sentiment among military experts at the moment of recording this video that the reason for this so-called evacuation, it is because Russians, they want to get a little bit further from the attack zones, which can be reached, as you can see, easily by Ukrainians. But at the same time, some other military experts, they do think that Russians simply disperse their forces evenly across Crimean Peninsula, because whenever there is such a concentration, such as for example in Belbek airfield or in Dzhankoi, this is a pretty fat target for Ukrainians, and so whenever Russians will be spread evenly across the peninsula, maybe Ukrainians will not be attacking them that much, because not a single target will look better than the previous one. Guys, these are two different opinions. Please let me know down below in the comments which one you think makes more sense. But so far, the most controversial and interesting statement that came to us specifically from Putin, once again also in the last 24 hours, is that he said that he is ready for a ceasefire, but only on one condition. Let's talk about this particular topic right now. Let's talk about whether this is a good thing or it's a bad thing, and what can potentially happen in case this theoretical ceasefire happens. Can Ukraine and Russia follow the Korean scenario? To begin with, the president of Russia, along with this entire cabinet of ministers, Minister of Foreign Affairs Lavrov, the new Minister of Defense, Mr. Belousov, pretty much everyone, they arrived to Belarus to just talk with Alexander Lukashenko about some nuclear exercises, nuclear practice. But then even the ex-president of Ukraine, Mr. Viktor Yanukovych, reportedly, he also came to Belarus. He was a pro-Russian president, so do not put much expectations on this guy. But still, the representatives of these 3 different countries, they met in the same place for most likely some very secretive talks. And during one of the interviews that was made public whenever Putin was answering questions and just making some statements, he did say that he is ready for a ceasefire as long as current border lines and front lines will be taken into consideration. Basically whatever he is saying is that everything that is right now occupied by Russia, this must become a Russian territory, and then he is ready to talk about peace. Which, to be honest, in my personal opinion, does not make sense. This is ridiculous. You simply cannot go into another country, take its land and say, well, now let's talk peace because we took your country, and if you don't want to be talking, if you don't want to have peace negotiations with us, we will continue doing war against you. So it's either this or that. It is already ridiculous enough. But one of the main reasons why this potential ceasefire might not be a good option, specifically and mainly for Ukrainians, because guys, we already talked about this dozens of times. Most likely, Putin will use this time to resupply his army, bring more forces, reinforces, construct new military vehicles, so that several years later he can resume this offensive. I mean, at this point it is pretty obvious that you cannot simply trust whatever Putin says, and then at the same time, even he just literally was contradicting himself in the next sentence. He says one thing and then the next sentence he contradicts himself. He was saying about he's open for peace talks, and then he said, well, who are we gonna talk with from the Ukrainian side? Because we do not recognize Zelensky as a legitimate president of Ukraine. His employment officially expired on May 20th. There was supposed to be elections in Ukraine, he says. Well, this statement coming from Putin, I would say this is one of the most ridiculous things he could even think about saying. But well, he still did. And ultimately, let's talk about the potential scenario how this war can end, which is this so-called Korean scenario. And this will be an extra chapter for my Patreon members. So guys, if you do want to support the Russian Dude project, YouTube is nowhere near close paying what it used to be, so I'm only mainly relying right now on Patreon memberships. If you want to see this extra chapter and hundreds of uncensored photos and videos every single week, please go ahead and check my Patreon, the link is down below. Thank you so much, the best way to support my work. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this style of daily news updates. Also, don't forget about my second channel, The Russian Dude Investing, especially if you miss seeing my face on Mondays. I do not upload videos on the main channel on Mondays, but there is a video on The Russian Dude Investing on Monday. So, if you miss me, go ahead and watch it, maybe even right now. The link to my second channel is down below, and all the other useful links, my PayPal, Patreon, Instagram, and of course merch, hoodies, cases, pens, everything is down below. Thanks so much for watching, see you on Tuesday.